Burn the tube on late Sunday night. Red clay dust and stadium lights are capping all the gridiron fights. ACC bytes bring highlights in sight. From Clemson's roars to Wake's thrill suits, Hokies, hurricanes, and Eagles' dreams, caught in the rhythm of football streams. Every college team chasing their gleams. From Clemson's roars to Wake's thrill scenes, Hokies, hurricanes, and Eagles' dreams, caught in the rhythm of football streams. Every college team chasing their gleams. ACC bytes, the stories unfold. Half an hour's worth of tales told. Fans gather round, strong and bold, waiting for the saga, new and old. Tar Heels and Blue Devils too. All the games and players are new. Slinging pigskin, fighting through the road ahead, a clearer view. In the quiet towns and bustling squares, every score matters, everyone cares. Through the cheers and heartfelt prayers, AC byte shares what's rare. Join us next week to see the show. Win or lose, it ain't lost its glow. Future's unfolding, don't you know? Saturday's magic bound to grow. In the quiet towns and bustling squares, every score matters, everyone cares. Through the cheers and heartfelt prayers, AC byte shares what's rare. Join us next week to see the show. Win or lose, it ain't lost its glow. Future's unfolding, don't you know? Saturday's magic bound to grow.
There we go, guys. What do you think about that? The opening song, here we are, week 1, episode 1. Good gosh almighty. Had more songs playing in the background. I apologize about that. But here we are. Week 1, episode 1 of the ACC Bytes. For those who follow Sports Bytes, I've been talking about it, and this is my first episode that I'm going to be doing like 30-minute little quick shows every week for every conference. ACC Bytes, Big 12 Bytes, Big 10 Bytes, Group G5 Bytes. You know, and there's a lot of really good G5 games to talk about, especially now that I'm covering the UAB Blazers, and we'll talk about that on the G5 Bytes. That'll be up later this week. But I will have a live show on Monday. That'll be my Reaction Monday show. Then I have Preview Friday, kind of get you ready for the weekend. But throughout the week, I'm going to pepper these little 30-minute shows that focus on specific conferences only. That's all we're going to talk about in this specific little 30-minute, up to 30-minute show that we're doing here, right? But we're going to jump in and we're going to talk about the ACC. And last night was Monday night, so I don't know when this is going to be played, probably on Tuesday night. So Monday night, Florida State went 0-2. Really got outplayed by Georgia Tech. And I said it after the very first game when Florida State played Georgia Tech in Ireland, that DJ Uiagalelei was not the guy. And I said it all last year. You can go back to any of my episodes that I talked about Oregon State, about DJ coming through. And then at the end when he transferred, made the transfer to Florida State. And I have a lot of people that are Florida State fans, and when I talk to them, they are very optimistic. And I saw enough tape on him to not buy in. And here's a guy who, when he was coming out of high school, he was the number 2 rated quarterback. The two guys sandwiched between C.J. Stroud, doing his thing in the NFL, and Bryce Young, who had a really good preseason. See if we can translate that into more action this year in the NFL. But DJ Uiagalelei is not the guy. Now, I will say this. What I don't like hearing is people that are bashing on Florida State saying, oh, is this a team that was crying about getting in the playoffs last year? No, it's not the same team. Gone are 10 NFL draft picks. Gone is the leadership. Was their ego bruised? Probably. But it's not the same team. Now, Coach Norvell, you got a big problem. It almost looked like your team is quitting after 2 weeks. And it's sad. And it goes to show sometimes people who talk about sports for a living have no idea what the hell they're talking about either. So that's why I appreciate you listening. Again, I am live on every social media. I'm on TikTok. I'm on X. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. Sports Bites Podcast. That's where you can find me on all of it. Just type in Sports Bites Podcast. You'll see the logo. Like, follow, subscribe, share, interact. There's a lot of stuff going on. Like I said, I'll be at UAB practice this week. They go and play ULM. We'll talk about that in G5 Bites. But this whole Florida State thing is very intriguing. And I think what I've seen from, that first week when you had SMU play, didn't play great, still got the win. Florida State's now 0-2. Clemson lost. I think the ACC is fourth in the Power Four conferences, behind the SEC, behind the Big Ten, behind the Big 12. I think top to bottom. And at the end of the show, I'm going to give you my power rankings. And I want to preface this by saying in the power rankings, it is not just the best, the best record. I'm basing it on what I saw, watching highlights, going back, watching game tape. What did I see? Because there's going to be some teams that have a loss that are going to be higher ranked than teams with a win. So it's, my thing. This is not like a top 25 poll. Now, I do vote in the FWAA Super 16 where we pick the top 16 teams. I mean, there's guys like RJ Young, who I used to work with from the #1 sports show. He's a voter. There's Hall of Fame college players, coaches. So it's a big honor for me to get to vote in that. So I'm really happy. But that first weekend, Georgia Tech beats Florida State, really just taking it to them, 24-21. SMU struggled, scored 16 points in the fourth quarter. They win 29-24. We move ahead to Thursday's action. And, of course, Thursday I was at UAB covering the UAB Alcorn State game, going back and forth. I was excited about North Carolina State because North Carolina State was my kind of dark horse to win the ACC. I know a lot of people have Virginia Tech. Don't worry, we're good into them. But NC State with Grayson McCall, a guy who had done a really good job, who's known how to win football games and has won football games at the collegiate level for quite a few years, really good with the ball, doesn't give it away, had an interception, but NC State beats Western Carolina, the Catamounts, right? So, okay, you get out of there with a win. Now they got a big game this week, Tennessee. I'll talk about that on the previews. But NC State wins. Thursday, you also had Wake Forest with a 45-13 win over North Carolina A&T. And the Carolina Tar Heels, old Mac Brown, he was pacing. Got out of there with a 2-point victory. Minnesota misses a field goal as time expires. Marcus Major, former Oklahoma Sooner, playing for Minnesota, looked pretty good. Good to see him out there. Friday night, Duke took on Elon. Malik Murphy, who I think looks like an EA Sports creative player, 291 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I'll be interested to see how Malik and Duke move forward in this year, because Malik, I thought, had a lot of talent at Texas, but again, very interesting. One of the new members of the ACC, Stanford, they were the team that took the, Florida State took a loss, but the first ACC team to take a loss out of conference was Stanford. They lose to TCU 34-27. Now, when I talk about Saturday was so fun. I was so excited, ready for football, ready to be a part of this college football experience. I'd missed it. It's one of those, when it's gone, it sucks. But when it comes back, you're excited. Went and worked out with my wife at our gym Saturday morning. Went to our favorite coffee place here locally. If you're coming through Birmingham, they've got 2 locations. You need to stop by Cala Coffee. All right? Locally owned. Great people own it. Fantastic products. Everything is 100% natural. No store-bought syrups. They make their own. They have a nitro brewed latte that is smack your mama good. All right? Little breakfast tacos, stuff like that. Remember, it's Cala, C-A-L-A Coffee. 2 locations here in Birmingham. If you're coming out for a game, stop by Cala Coffee. Saturday, we get into an ACC, a full slate of games. Started off with Virginia Tech and Vanderbilt. Most everybody, I would say 90% of the college football world, had Virginia Tech winning that game and had them winning it easy. Vanderbilt said nay, nay. Diego Pavia, SEC Player of the Week. Vanderbilt, the FWAA Team of the Week. They knock off Virginia Tech 34-27 in overtime. And what was interesting watching the game is when plays needed to be made, Vanderbilt made the plays. Completely different from what you've seen from Vanderbilt in the past. Now, again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. You beat Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech had a lot of returning talent. I think 21% of 21 returning starters, and the majority of their production coming back. So there's a lot of people that had Virginia Tech top 25, outside shot at winning the ACC. You lose to Vanderbilt. Now, again, I don't know what this means for Vanderbilt moving into the SEC, but I will say I like what I saw. A lot more competitive, and I think they did a really good job. They win 34-27. Louisville knocked off Austin Peay 6-2-0. No real challenge there. Pitt beat the Golden Flashes of Kent State 55-24. And Holstein, the quarterback from Pittsburgh, 333 yards, 3 touchdowns, looked really good. Syracuse struggled a little bit with the Bobcats, but McCord looked good back there in the pocket for Syracuse, 354 through the air with 4 touchdowns. And they knock off Ohio. Cal, I always forget, Cal is now part of the ACC. They beat UC Davis 31-13. The Wahoos took on the Spiders of Richmond. Virginia wins 34-13. And Georgia Tech won their second game. They beat a decent Georgia State team 35-12. Haynes King, 275, 2 touchdowns, had his first turnover of the year. Remember, that was a big knock on Haynes King last year, was the amount of turnovers that he had. 16 interceptions. But again, Haynes running the ball, 17 carries, 84 yards and a touchdown. Rutherford, 7 receptions, 131 yards and a touchdown. I mean, Georgia Tech is looking pretty good. They're looking pretty good. Now, the 2 big games in the ACC, you saw Clemson and Georgia. And I don't know, I've upset some Clemson people. You know, they love Dabo Swinney, and I'm not saying Dabo Swinney's a bad person. But not buying into NIL, not buying into the transfer portal, relying solely on grassroots and development, I don't know if that's going to be able to sustain championship level football. Now, they've recruited well, but you can obviously see the last 2 quarterbacks they really brought in, DJ Uiagalelei and Cade Klubnik, just are not that good. But, of course, you also had 2 of the most generational quarterbacks with Deshaun Watson, who was highly decorated, Trevor Lawrence, Mr. Everything in football. And now you've gone through DJ Uiagalelei and Cade Klubnik. Now it's 6-0 at halftime. Mike Bobo comes out. They realize they use the boundaries. They get some swing plays going. They get some outside the edge. They use that speed. Georgia pulls away. And I tell you what, that defense looks really good. Now, a lot of it could be, I don't know how good that Clemson offense is going to be. Clemson will stay in the top 25, but Georgia looked really good. 34-3, they win. The team that a lot of people are talking about, the U is the U back, is the swagger back. Cam Ward transfers in, 385 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And they were talking trash to the Florida recruits as they were sitting there. Come to Miami. You saw one of the people that work for Florida trying to usher. I'm like, bro, you're not going to do anything. They're here to talk, and they're going to talk. But the Canes get a big win in Gainesville. And again, this is one of those where I want to kind of pump the brakes a little bit on. It's a good win for Miami because they looked like a team that was executing at a high level. To me, from what I saw from week 1 of the ACC, Miami's right now the best team in the ACC. Right now. Now, is that an indictment on Florida being as bad as they are? I don't know. I want to see how Billy Napier and the Gators move forward, but does not look good. Looking ahead to this week's games in the ACC, some interesting matchups. We'll start Friday night. BYU heads down to Dallas at Gerald J. Ford Stadium to take on the Ponies. Ponies playing their third game already. Southern Methodist, SMU favored by 10.5. Total of 55.5. I'd probably take the total in that, the 55.5. That's where I would be, 55.5. Duke and Northwestern. It's the Brainiac Bowl. Northwestern favored by 2.5. I would take Duke. I think Duke is the better team just with Malik Murphy alone. A total of 36.5. Probably take the under. I think this is like a 17-10 game, but I like Duke winning that football game on Friday night. You can catch that on FS1. Now, you head into Saturday's slate of games. You get some teams playing ACC opponents, Georgia Tech, Syracuse. Georgia Tech goes up to the Dome and trying to keep their undefeated streak going. Georgia Tech favored by 3, a total of 62.5. I'd probably take the under, and I would take Georgia Tech minus the 3 points. That's where I would stand on that. Cincinnati and Pitt, a kind of a interesting rivalry with location. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Cincinnati favored by 2, probably because they're at home. I would probably take Pittsburgh plus the 2 points. A total of 63.5. I'd probably take the over in that one. I think there's going to be a lot of points. Jacksonville State got absolutely boat raced by Coastal Carolina, the Chanticleers, right? Well, it's not going to get any better. They've got to go all the way. They got to go to Louisville. Louisville's going to hammer. Louisville favored by 28. It's a lot of points. Total 57. I'd probably take the over. Take the over. It's just a lot of points. I think they cover, but if I, betting, I'd probably stay away. Cal heads down to Jordan-Hare Stadium. Peyton Thorne, 322 yards, 4 touchdowns for the Auburn Tigers. Hugh Freeze and his bunch. Jarquez Hunter. Auburn's favored by 13. A total of 53.5. I'd probably go under, and I'd probably take Cal plus the points. Now, again, I think Auburn may be a better football team, but weird stuff happens at Jordan-Hare Stadium, and I can't wait to see it on September 28th. 2:30 kickoff on ESPN Plus, ACC Extra, Duquesne and Boston College. Castellano looked really good at running back, and good for Boston College. We'll see if the hangover is in effect. Chestnut Hill at Alumni Stadium, 75 and beautiful for kickoff. I like Boston College in the game. No spread because Duquesne is an FCS team. Charlotte and North Carolina, the 49ers, 0-1, head to Chapel Hill at Kinnan Stadium to take on the Carolina Tar Heels. Spread 22.5 for the Tar Heels, a total of 46.5. I'd probably take. I would probably take Charlotte plus the points. I think it's a little bit closer. We'll see. Virginia Tech, Marshall. That's going to be an interesting ball game, guys. Virginia Tech favored by 20.5. We don't know if Drones, how healthy he is. I would take Marshall. Very close in proximity, Blacksburg and Marshall, But at Lane Stadium, they're going to play Metallica. But a total of 51.5. I'd probably take the over in that. And I would take Marshall plus the 20.5. The U takes on the Rattlers, Florida A&M. Their quarterback only had 568 yards and 6 touchdowns in their opener, Mr. Richardson. It's in Hard Rock Stadium, Cam Ward versus Richardson. I'll be interested to see if they can spread the ball around against that Miami defense and that Miami pass rush. Stanford trying to get back on the winning side, 6 o'clock on ESPN Plus against Cal Poly. 6 o'clock as well, ESPN2, Virginia and Wake Forest. Wake favored by 1.5. I'd probably take Wake Forest at home. The total of 56.5. That's tough. I'd probably go under. Clemson, App State. Again, another game that I'm really intrigued about when you look at Group of 5 against Power 4. App State has every chance in the world to beat Clemson. Better quarterback play. Maybe, how they got people. I don't know. I just think App State has a chance. Clemson favored by 17.5. I would take App State plus a 17.5. And I would probably take the total of 53.5 over. That's what I would do. Now, the biggest game in the ACC this week, Tennessee, neutral, quote, neutral site stadium, Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina, in the Duke's Mayo Classic, which tells me they're going to have some frat boy out there pour mayonnaise all over himself. To each their own. Both teams in the top 25. Nico Iamaleava against Grayson McCall. And I mentioned in my show I did on Monday on the live, Tennessee is fast. Squirrel White, Brew McCoy, Nico Iamaleava, that offense, there was times they were snapping the ball and the chain crew wasn't even set. Wasn't even set. That is a big game. I will take the total over 60.5. Okay. Now the spread is Tennessee by 8. Whew. I'm not saying I don't think Tennessee can cover it, but I would like to think that North Carolina State was looking ahead to this game. Now, granted, Tennessee didn't play any, they played Tennessee Chattanooga, and absolutely boat raced them. But again, now you're in this, maybe they were looking ahead. Grayson McCall, Nico Iamaleava, should be a great game. You can still get tickets as low as $80 there at Bank of America Stadium. It's supposed to be a beautiful night. 6:30, that's the ABC prime time 6:30 game. But that's your week of games for the ACC. Look ahead now. I want to show you, if you're watching the little live clip of this, I want to show you. Where'd it go? There we go. I had it on different scene. My power rankings for the ACC. You see it all right here. A number one team, Miami. I'm putting them up there just because of how dominant they were. Georgia Tech looks really good. I got them at number 2. Louisville at 3. They're 1-0. Now, Clemson, I'm giving them a pass because they played Georgia. I want to see how they play against App State, which will determine if they stay there or move down. If they lose, they move way down. If it's a close game, they're still going to move down, but not as much. Even if they win, they're going to move down if it's a close game, right? Now, if they go out and dominate them, they'll probably stay right around there in that 4th spot. Boston College comes in at number 5. They're at 1-0. NC State at 6, 1-0. SMU is 2-0. I have them at 7th. 8th is North Carolina State. 9 is Syracuse. 10 is Virginia. Pitt at 11. Wake Forest at 12. Duke at 13. Cal at 14. Stanford at 15. Virginia Tech at 16. You lost to Vanderbilt. You're getting put down there. Sorry. It's what's going to happen, right? And then Florida State, you're 0-2. And here's what's even worse. Florida State plays Memphis next. That's not a gimme win for the Florida State Seminoles. All right? It's not a gimme win. Everyone talked about Memphis possibly being the group of 5 team that makes the playoffs. Fantastic quarterback, great receiving core. All you got to do is line up and run the ball against Florida State is what it's showing. But if they go 0-3, is that the end of Norvell? I mean, I'm not one of those. I don't like calling for coaches to be fired, especially so early in the season. But, everything going on at Florida State now, you're not winning football games, right? You're not winning football games. But that's my power rankings. And again, I want to explain when I do these power rankings, it's not just like ranking a top 25. This is what I saw watching. I'm reading stuff about the games, looking at the stat lines, watching the highlights, kind of pinpointing some things, who dominated, who executed at a higher level. And right now, the best win, it was Georgia Tech, but with Florida State losing to Boston College, Miami has the best win right now. Now, North Carolina State could take that spot if they beat Tennessee. Miami, maybe they struggle against Florida A&M. So the power rankings is very fluid, all right? It's going to be very fluid, but just stay with it. But that's going to wrap up episode 1 of the ACC Bites, guys. And I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. Again, this is on all platforms. If you go to Podbean, if you got Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, we're all over. Samsung Mobile Podcast. Go to Podbean. You can find it anywhere you want. You can download the Podbean app as well. I'm on YouTube at Sports Bytes Podcast. You can follow me there. All my content, shorts, cooking videos, interviews from the tailgates, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But that's going to do it for episode 1. We'll be back next week for episode 2. How much will those power rankings have changed for the ACC? But I appreciate you tuning in to ACC Bytes, and remember, everybody, positively move forward, guys.
Thanks for joining us on this delicious journey through the world of sports and food on Sports Bites. With your host, Chris Joseph. We hope you've enjoyed the game day stories and culinary adventures. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you've got any mouth-watering sports-related tales or favorite game day recipes, share them with us on social media. Until next time, remember, it's not just about the game. It's about the bites that make it unforgettable. Stay hungry for more Sports Bites.